Okay, so in this final video in our series on Excel, I'm going to go over one of the more advanced features that you'll find yourself using a fair amount, which is how to set up your own custom keyboard shortcuts. And we've just been over how to create your own macros, and custom keyboard shortcuts are similar to that, but they are a little different. I'm going to go over those differences and then how to set up your own right now. So just to be clear, what I mean by custom keyboard shortcuts is within Excel, Control C is copy, Control V is paste, and then there are other shortcuts like Alt EST to paste styles and formatting, for example. And those are all fine, those are all good to know, but what if you want to set up your own shortcuts to save you time and to help make the formatting process and the data manipulation process easier and more effective? And of course, you can set up your own custom keyboard shortcuts to do that, and I'm going to go through an example of how to do so right now. Now, this is one area where it actually is significantly different in Excel 2003 versus Excel 2007. So for now, I'm going to go over the 2007 way to do this, and then I'm going to skip to another video going through how to do it in Excel 2003. So keep in mind that it is a little bit different depending on which version of Excel you have. It's less useful in Excel 2007 because of some limitations that are placed on you, and you'll see what I mean by that when I get into the 2003 video for that. But nevertheless, it can still be quite useful regardless of the version of Excel you have and regardless of what you're doing. So the best way to illustrate this is to just go through a simple example with you right now. So to get a custom keyboard shortcut set up, I'm going to click on the Quick Access toolbar in Excel 2007 right here. So I'll right click here. And again, this is one of the few cases where using the mouse is actually fine to set up these custom keyboard shortcuts. So I can either click on Customize Quick Access Toolbar, or I can just press C to get there. And now I see I have a bunch of different options for this. So I can add any of these to this Quick Access Toolbar. And you'll see that right now, I'm just going to close this. Right now, all we have up here are Save, Undo, Redo, and this datasheet formatting command. So the Control 1 is built into Excel, and it's one of the most important commands to know. Another way that we can add items to here is we can just right-click on the item itself and then just go to Add to Quick Access Toolbar. So this is the button to increase decimal places. This is the button to decrease decimal places. So I'm just going to go up here and actually just right-click on these and go to Add to Quick Access Toolbar, either by pressing A or just by left-clicking. Similarly here, I can just click on the Add to Quick Access Toolbar. Now we have both these here at the top. And the way we access them is we can just press Alt, and we see that by default they've been set to Alt 5 and then Alt 6 here. So if I went here under Number of Employees and pressed Alt 5, we get another decimal place. I press it again, I get another decimal place, and so on. Similarly, if I press Alt 6, I start removing decimal places. So that's how you set up custom keyboard shortcuts in Excel 2007. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So there's not too much to learn here. You basically just right-click on whatever it is you're trying to do and then go to Add to Quick Access Toolbar, and it gets assigned to an Alt key. Now, if we were to extend this and we kept adding items here, so I'll just go in and add some of the font-related stuff. What would happen is the keys would go, we see that the keys start going from 1 to 9 here. Then the keys would start from 0, 9. So then it would switch to 0, 9. And that's basically what happened there. But pretty straightforward. The part about this that I don't like that much in Excel 2007 is that you can only use the built-in default keys to get to these. So in other words, if I wanted to go in and change it and make my own custom shortcut key, say Control Alt 8 or something like that, rather than just Alt 8 or Alt 08, then it's not possible to do that, at least easily, in Excel 2007. So that is one limitation. That's one reason why I don't like it and don't think it's as convenient as it is with Excel 2003, but nevertheless, it is there. Now, another thing I can do here, another important point for you to keep in mind, is that you can also modify how this looks and add, edit, and delete the items that are on here. So to do that, I just right-click on this toolbar and then go to Customize Quick Access Toolbar. And then to modify these items, I can just tab to get over here. Press Alt-R to remove various items. And we see that under Choose Commands From, it may actually be faster for you to use this depending on what you're trying to add. And you can easily see all the different commands you can choose from right here. And then just pick them, go to Alt-A to add them to the Quick Access toolbar, and they'll show up right here. Probably the most useful ones to be adding to this area are the ones for formatting, especially formatting colors, fonts like I have here, and then even decimal places, because if you think about it, if we got to formatting fonts or fill colors with a Control-1 shortcut, it's kind of annoying because it takes a few keystrokes to get over there. We have to go in, start modifying stuff in here, either by pressing Tab a bunch of times or by pressing the Alt shortcuts. And then same for border, same for fill. So font, fill, and border and other formatting related options like that are probably the most common cases where you set up your own custom shortcuts using the Alt key in Excel. So that's the most common use. You can, of course, use it for almost anything you want, but usually most of the other functions that you need already have a shortcut key assigned to them that's convenient. So that's why so many people set up Excel to actually have font color, fill color, increase, decrease decimals all the way up here so that they can easily access them with the Alt shortcut keys. Now, as far as why you would use custom keyboard shortcuts versus macros, there are a couple of trade-offs. With custom keyboard shortcuts, you can only really use them for very simple actions, built-in actions like the font formatting, the fill color formatting, increasing, decreasing decimals, changing the font size. If you have a more complex action like we did before, where we actually formatted this header by changing a couple different variables there, then you really have to use a macro if it's something that's more complex, more involved. So custom keyboard shortcuts are really only good for very simple actions that already exist in Excel. However, with macros, you can sometimes run into problems because you may not store them in the current workbook you're in. So you have to take special care if you actually want to transfer them between different workbooks and make sure that they always work in your different files. So that's something to be aware of. Sometimes macros can present security problems, because you don't know who made them all the time. Sometimes they could be viruses or some kind of other malicious software. So there is a security hazard sometimes with macros, and Excel sometimes actually just automatically disables them. So that's something to be aware of. Macros will usually, though not always, take more keystrokes because most of the time you're using Control Shift and the letter key rather than just Alt and a number key. But that's very minor. I mean, really the main difference is that macros are used for more complex actions, whereas custom keyboard shortcuts are used for simpler actions. And then the other important point to make is that macros cannot be undone and redone, but custom keyboard shortcuts can, because you're just using the built-in functions within Excel. And so it's very easy for Excel to figure out what you did and then to undo your action. So that's how you set these up within Excel 2007. Now I'm going to go over to Excel 2003 and show you how to set them up there and how it's a little bit different and how the different setup actually in some ways makes it more helpful there. Okay, so here we are in Excel 2003 now. I have the same file open that we were just going over. You see that the colors here are a bit messed up because those colors were specific to Excel 2007 and now we're moving back to an older version. But nevertheless, here is how you set up custom keyboard shortcuts in 2003 now. So we do it a little bit differently from 2007, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage is that we have more flexibility with how we set things up and where we move things around to. The disadvantage is that it does take a little bit more work. It's not quite as intuitive to set up custom keyboard shortcuts. So let's just go through the example of the decimal places once again, of adding these two decimal place buttons to make them more easily accessible. Now, we don't have that quick access toolbar like we did in 2007 with Excel 2003, so we set this up in a bit of a different way. So the first thing we do is right-click on this area right at the top of Excel, and this is basically the toolbar area in Excel 2003. I'm going to go down to Customize right here. We see we have a couple different options, but actually we don't really even care about what's in this Customize thing. What we're really trying to do here is bring up this dialog so that we can then go back to this decimal place button that we want and right-click on that. And now we see that when we right-click on this, when we already have this customized dialog up, that now we have different options. Now we have all these options to name it something different, to use images and text rather than just the image right here, and we have a whole host of other options here. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to change the name here first. And rather than increase decimal, we're just going to call this ampersand and then the period key, the greater than key on your keyboard. We're also going to check off image and text right here. And now we see, looking at this, that it's changed slightly and that now we have this period right next to it, indicating that the shortcut key to get here is going to involve pressing that button, the period key or the greater than key on your keyboard. So once we have that in place, let's press escape to get out of this customize dialog box. Now let's try it out. So the way we access this is just by pressing Alt and then period. Alt period. So we see the decimal places are increasing right there, and it works no matter what kind of number we have. So in my view, this is better than Excel 2007 because we're not limited to just numbers. In other words, we don't have to just call this Alt 5 or Alt 6 for the shortcut. We can change it to really any key that we want on the keyboard. So I think it is better and it is more flexible because it lets you really set it to anything you want. Just press Control Z now a couple times to undo this. Now another really useful thing that you can do in Excel 2003 that you cannot do, at least not as easily in Excel 2007, is make it so that you don't have to go through the Control 1 dialog box to get down to formatting for the fills and for the font colors, for example. And so to make this formatting in terms of the fill colors and the font colors more easily accessible in Excel 2003, here's what we can do. You'll see these two buttons right over here for fill color and font color. So what we're going to do is go to the format menu right here. And what we want to do is actually include these on the format menu over here. And the advantage of doing this is that this way we can kind of consolidate everything in under one shortcut key, the Alt-O key, and then we can set our own custom keyboard shortcuts that will allow us to get to fill color and font color right over here. So if we just try dragging that over to format, then it doesn't work. What we have to do is, once again, right click right over here on the toolbar, go to Customize. So I just left click on that and I am holding down the left mouse button. I'm going to go under Format and I'm going to put it right here. This is the fill color one. And then the font color, I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to go under Format, I'm going to drag it right over here. Okay, so now these are somewhat more accessible, but the problem is that both of these have the Alt-F shortcut to get to them. So we need to change that. So what I'm going to do here is right-click on Fill Color. I'm going to name this. We're going to reposition the ampersand right here. The ampersand corresponds to the Alt key. So whenever we change this around, whatever directly follows it will be the shortcut. So I just press Control X to cut that. I'm going to press Control V right before the O here to paste it. So that'll be our name now. In doing that, we can see that now the shortcut is shifted. So now to access this, we go to Alt-O-O for fill color and then Alt-O-F for font color. We'll just get out of that now. So now let's try that. So we press Alt-O and we press F to get to font color. We press Alt-O-O to get to fill color. And now we can change things much more easily. And this is actually something that you cannot do, at least not easily, not the same way we did it just now in 2003. You can't do this easily in Excel 2007. So this is one of the advantages of 2003, and this is actually one of the reasons why a lot of bankers and a lot of people in finance actually greatly prefer Excel 2003, because of features like this that used to be easy but which are now difficult to implement and use in Excel 2007. So this is a feature that will save you a lot of time if you're lucky enough to have the right version of Excel installed. If not, you can still replicate some of this by using the Alt functions and the Alt keys under the Quick Access toolbar in Excel 2007. But those are the basics of how you set up these custom keyboard shortcuts in both Excel 2003 and Excel 2007. And now that we've gone over that, that's pretty much all for the tutorials on Excel in this course. So Starting from the beginning, if you've gone through everything, you should have started with the basic navigation and ending, gone through the formatting and the data manipulation, and then gone through how to use formulas, how to audit and error check your formulas, and then gone through some of the more advanced features in Excel like lookup functions, pivot tables, macros, and now custom keyboard shortcuts. And that really is 99% of what you need to know for investment banking, private equity, and related corporate finance fields. There are, of course, always dozens, hundreds, thousands of other Excel shortcuts and features, but those are the ones that you're going to be using the most often when you're working in finance and maybe even business in general and using Excel. So that's what you need to know, and hopefully you learned a lot and are now much more proficient at using Excel having gone through all these videos.